The Shepherd's Stone. David wasn't a soldier. He was a shepherd boy, and his flock was his whole world. He spent his days under the wide open sky, playing his harp for his sheep and practicing with his simple slingshot. He could hit a falling leaf from 50 paces. He wasn't big or strong, but he was quick, clever, and his heart was full of a quiet, steady courage. One day, David's father sent him to the battle lines to bring food to his older brothers. When he arrived, the camp was strangely quiet. The soldiers of Israel, big men in shiny armor, were huddled behind rocks and barricades, their faces pale with fear. "What's wrong?" David asked his oldest brother, Eliab. Eliab pointed a trembling finger toward the valley. There, a giant of a man named Goliath stomped and roared. He was covered in bronze armor that gleamed in the sun, and he mocked the army of Israel. "Send me a champion," he bellowed, his voice echoing off the hills. "Or are you all cowards?" David's heart burned with anger. He couldn't stand to hear the giant's insults. He marched right into the tent of King Saul. "I will fight this giant," David said, his voice clear and strong. The king, a tall, weary man, looked down at the young shepherd boy in disbelief. "You are only a boy," said the king, "but your courage is great." He offered David his own royal armor. David tried to put it on, but the helmet fell over his eyes and the breastplate clanked around his knees. He stumbled and nearly fell. "I cannot wear this," David said with a small smile. "I will face him my own way." David walked to a nearby brook. He didn't choose the biggest or the prettiest rocks. He carefully selected 5 smooth, round stones, the kind he knew would fly straight and true. He placed them in his shepherd's pouch, took a deep breath, and walked out into the valley alone, armed only with his staff and his simple sling. When Goliath saw David, he laughed a terrible, booming laugh. "Am I a dog," the giant roared, "that you come to me with sticks?" He pointed his massive spear, which was as thick as a weaver's beam, at the small boy. "Come here, and I will feed you to the birds of the air." David was not afraid. He looked up at the giant and shouted, "You come to me with a sword and a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." He began to run toward the giant, his small legs kicking up dust. As he ran, David reached into his pouch, pulled out a stone, and fitted it into a sling. He began to swing it, faster and faster, a blur above his head. Goliath lumbered forward to meet him. In one smooth, practiced motion, David let the stone fly. It whistled through the air, a tiny speck against the sky, flying straight and true. The stone struck the giant right in the middle of his forehead, where there was a gap in his helmet. Goliath's eyes went wide with shock. He swayed for a moment, like a great tree in a storm, and then crashed to the ground with a thunderous boom that shook the whole valley. The fight was over. A shepherd boy had done what an entire army was too afraid to do.